you can see, I have finished removing the moldy and rotted sill plate and joists out from underneath the south wall here. Replaced it with a brand new treated lumber sill plate and two 2x6 pinched together, actually screwed together with structural screws. For the floor joist, it is now clean, mold-free, rotted-free. This project really kicked my butt. So when I was done with the project, I ended up taking a couple days off from working on this house to take a little bit of a break. Katie and I spent the weekend just doing some other stuff outside, building additional chicken tractors and more hoop coops and whatnot. So let me get you caught up on what we're going to be doing in today's video, and I'll show you what I've started already. What you are seeing here, this is the hallway, or the entrance into the addition, and I've mentioned in several videos we want to match the new floor that I'm putting in to the height of this floor here. And I was just poking around a little bit, and I noticed when I put a level on that there was a pretty significant height difference here than like 4 foot back here. So I started working with the level, and I found that the majority of the floor here in the addition is level, except for starting here going back, there was a 9/16 inch difference. So something about the lip of this is 9/16 higher than the rest of the floor in this addition. What I ended up doing was cutting out a piece of the top 9/16 inch plywood to see how far back I need to remove the first layer in order to be flat and level with the rest of the floor. And turns out I need to come out, about, what are we at here, 17 inches. And when I move this thing over and I look at the level, we're perfectly level. What this allows me to do, now that I have the proper height in which I need to level to, I can start figuring out how I'm going to be putting floor joists in here with the Advantech tongue and groove subfloor on top of it, and meet the top of this piece of 9/16 inch plywood. And then to fill this gap in here, once I cut out all of this, the 17 inches of 9/16 plywood, I'll probably have to do some filler in here, like some self-leveling filler or something like that. But I'll get to that later as I start putting down floor, the actual flooring. But for now, this gives me the level that I need to measure everything to and figure out how I'm going to be putting in the new floor joists, what size they need to be, all that kind of stuff. I have my laser level on the floor in the hallway on the addition. This laser level is 2 1/4 inches higher than the top of the floor that I want to level my new subfloor to. The new subfloor is going to be 3/4 inches thick. So I need to come down 3 inches from this laser level to find out where my floor joist is going to, at what level the floor joist is going to be, and how much taller it is than the sill plate that's going to be here. So basically that'll give me how thick of a floor joist I need to have that rests on the sill plate, and then I can have the 3/4 inch plywood rest on top of that to then be level to the floor that I just showed you in the addition. From the top of the sill plate, we are at 8 3/8 inches. So coming down 3 inches from that is 5 3/8 inches. That's how thick the floor joist needs to be in this area. And so that means I need to put either a 2x6 or a 2x8 in here. If I do 2x8s, the question is the notch, well, I'll probably do 2x8 so I can do 16 inch on the center. So whatever the difference is from 5 3/8 and the thickness of a 2x8, that's how much of a notch I'm going to create to then rest on the sill plate here. And if that notch is bigger than the allowed notch that you can make in a floor joist, that I'm going to use joist hangers that hang off of the sill plate to provide the support, so that way that notch, that way it meets code, basically. 5 3/8 inches, okay. This one over here is 1/8 of an inch shorter, so it looks like I'm going to have to notch them based on the rise and fall of the level of the foundation, because that's not exactly level. Yeah, and this one here is another 1/8 of an inch difference in height. So I'm going to have to make each notch based on the location. Okay, I think there is no time like the present. I just need to get started. So I'm going to start removing the floor joists, get these pieces of plywood off the floor here that I use as walking planks, head down below, start taking stuff apart. Let's just get going on this. It's time. Let's go. Let's go. Come on. Let's go. I kept the 2x4s and 2x6s down here because I think I'm going to use those to support the various items that are hanging from the floor joists, like the plumbing basically, some of the electrical cables, that kind of stuff. So last night I went to change the camera to finalize removing the first half of all the floor joist stuff from the house so I can capture removing the mid-span beam. But the battery on the camera died, and that was the world's way of telling me just stop working for the night. So I didn't do that, of course. Yesterday after that, Katie and I, we went to Lowe's and we got a bunch of lumber to start the floor joists and the mid-span beam in the house. So these are 2x10 by 16s, and then we got a bunch of 2x8 by 12s. So I'm going to try to get these things unloaded. It was a lot of manual labor getting them in. I'm hoping it's not as much manual labor getting them out. Use the tractor, lift them up, take them down to the back of the house, and bring them into the house. And the reason I did that is, even though I'm not quite ready to start working on the framing, over the next 7 days it's going to be raining. So I figured That's after today, so I figured today would be a good day to get stuff in the house and in shelter in the house, so that way it doesn't get rained on, and the next 7 days I have time to work on the inside. So anyway, let's get the stuff unloaded. Okay, got the parking brake on. Brackets out there. All right, let's see. So I think I want to just lower it down. Oh, I'm going to be hitting, whoops. I'm going to be hitting the wheel well on some of those. Yep. Whoops. Goes a bunch of brackets. Oh man. All right, I'm a little too close to the fence there. I'm going to pull forward, and then I guess I'll just have to slide each of them onto the forks and then be able to remove them. Wear my seatbelt just in case. Okay, I should be able to lift this up. Excellent. Big dip. No problem. All right. Parking brake. All right. Now I just have to manually load them into the house. Fun, fun. All right, one more thing on this. I want to get this portion of this mid-span beam out. So there's a few things I need to do. You can see the water line. Actually, it'll probably be fine. I just need to detach the old water line from it. That's no problem there. And then I need to remove this light, and it's attached to this one here, which is attached to this on-off switch. And so I need to go turn off the breaker that powers this. It's the same breaker that powers the dehumidifiers that are back there. So then I can take apart this wiring. And then I need to, I'm just gonna cut it where this joint is. There's a split joint from this mid-span beam going to that mid-span beam. So I'll probably just cut it there instead of trying to pry it apart. I can take this guy out. It's not even being held down anymore. In fact, all the weight is off of these, so this has a gap now. So it should be pretty easy. One of the things that I found, which kind of surprised me, these floor joists here, I'll show you this floor joist. There's one nail between this joist and this joist, and there's no nail going to this beam here. I was really surprised by that. I was kind of thinking that the floor joists were helping support the structural integrity of the wall, so the bottom wouldn't slip out, you know, in a strong wind or whatever. But given that there's only one single nail holding those two floor joists together that went from this side to this side and then from the center to the other side, and they weren't even attached to this beam, they're really not providing much support at all. And then another thing I wanted to show you here is that the beam or the floor joists that I just cut out, you can see it's red oak. And it was interesting because the dust from when I used the Sawzall, it's a nice deep red, definitely some very old growth red oak wood. Really neat. Okay, let's get this mid-span beam out of here, and I think that'll conclude this video. All right, I turned off the circuit breaker that powers the light here, controlled by this switch. Check. We have no lights on these things here, so we're off. Eventually, these floor joists are coming out, and so that circuit's gonna have to move, and this light switch and everything on this mid-span beam is gonna have to move. So I'm just going to clip them and then splice these guys in a new electrical box, because power comes from panel here and then it goes back out and around over to that plug. So I need these two lines to stay connected to each other. There we go. The age of this wire may actually tell me a little bit about the construction of the house, or at least when it was placed in this area of the property. So I need to find out when they stopped using, when this type of wire was no longer in use, instead of now they use Romex wire. So to figure that out, maybe I'll put it on the screen if I figure it out when I edit this video.